universe is calling you. The universe is calling me. It speaks both day and night. It's full of dark and light.
Well, welcome to SkyTour Livestream, everybody. And as you can see, we've got Amanda over there, we've got Daryl over there, and we've got Tara down there. Hi, Tara, how are you down there?
Hi, everyone.
How are you, Daryl?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Good. Amanda, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Awesome, thank you. It's a story of a man named Brady. I mean, it kind of looks like that. So welcome to SkyTour Radio, everybody. And I want to just thank you for sticking with us. We've got so much going on all the time. So it's amazing that we even have time to pull together a show. But tonight's show is really cool because we're going to be using a continuation of the format that I announced last week, which was to do a lot of interactive stuff where we actually look at a lot of the photographs that we've taken with the observatories, and we'll talk through what those objects are and how they occurred and all that. And we're building it into this segment as part of Deep Dive with Daryl. As Daryl's doing his deep dive, we're going to go through and look at the different objects in detail as we get to them. It's a really cool format. We got a lot of good reviews on it last week or week before, and so we'd like to try it again. You know, and as always, Tara, she's smiling all the time. It's just, you got to smile all the time. What's going on?
I don't know. It just happens.
That's okay. Okay. And don't tell anybody we can't see Amanda's smile or Daryl because they don't smile that much. I guess I don't know.
Oh, you can hear my smile in my voice. You can hear it in my voice. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to break the camera.
That made us all smile, which is funny.
And laugh.
And laugh.
For radio, that's me.
Oh yeah, right. Well, look, guys, welcome to SkyTour Radio, and we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. I want to welcome, of course, all the people that you see around me as we just went through, and SkyTour Radio is sort of a co-show, I would say, that goes along with SkyTour Livestream. And SkyTour Livestream is our desert and New England observatories. We have 2 observatories, and we actually look at the night sky and we take photographs and we put them up on a free server for everyone to grab whenever they want. And what I have to do, Amanda, is I've got to get that server link and actually publicize that. That's another thing. I just thought of that now, and I'm not asking you to do it, but I'm just saying we do have to get that server link ready for people so they can actually just go there. Even if they can't attend the stream, they can go to our free public server and see all the latest photos we took. And they're all they're processed too. So you get these beautiful images that are just like, they knock your socks off, and if you're not wearing socks, it'll knock your feet off, and that can get pretty nasty. But you know what? Let's just say it knocks your socks off. Okay?
Or it knocks your socks on.
Okay. I didn't think of that. Very good, Tara. Very good. It knocks your socks on. Anyway.
Some of the images could, perhaps.
Yeah. What we do with SkyTour Livestream at the observatories is we actually take photos of these beautiful glittering jewel boxes in the night sky, known as open clusters. We take pictures of what are called globular clusters, which are 30 to 50 to 60 to 80,000 stars, like an exploding snowball of stars. And we take images of deep sky nebulae. Those are clouds of gas and dust that are made to glow by hot stars nearby, and the dust reflects light, and it's just beautiful. It's literally a cosmic tapestry that is stunning to look at. And watching the photos develop right in front of your eyes is what we're all about. In the past, we had to take pictures, and you got to see some of the raw imagery, and it didn't look so pretty. Well, now the images look absolutely astonishing right off the bat. And to give you an idea, okay, Daryl down there has been attending every single one of these streams. He can't wait to come in and see this stuff. Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he loves what it looks like, and he loves the actual performance of the telescope. Am I right on this or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, it's true. He also recommends some objects. He's recommended a lot of objects as well, things that he might have seen in telescopes, and to see them in the sky through live stream cameras is really it becomes abundantly clear that anything else you've viewed in the past is, except for Hubble, literally, I hate to say it that way, but except for Hubble, it's not the same because you're seeing it live. When you see this gorgeous image in front of you, we just acquired that live right in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
That is incredible.
The scope's performance since you collimated it is just phenomenal. It's outstanding.
Yeah, now let us say this, okay? Daryl's an optical guy. He's an optics guy, an engineering background, and he used lasers a lot in his previous life as an engineer, and I can tell you that he's really picky about his optics, and if he says that, then I really feel complimented and humbled. So thank you, Daryl. That's very kind.
Oh, sure.
So if you're interested, you can join us at SkyTour live stream. That's a YouTube channel. It's free to join, free to subscribe. Hey, enjoy the night with us. And once I get going, and Tara knows this, she's seen it happen. And Amanda knows this because she's been the co-host on SkyTour live stream for years, along with Daryl. And I can tell you, they know that when I say it's about time for me to shut down the observatory for the night, generally that doesn't mean it's over because I just can't help it. I've got to look at something else. So I have this little phrase people say is just one more. That's me. I'm Mark, just one more, D'Antonio.
Yeah, sometimes I say doesn't know when to quit, Mark D'Antonio.
But that's only about my talking. That's not about the observatory, right? So in the end, what we do is we end up looking at all these beautiful things, making them available to you. But it's not like you just get pretty pictures and don't know what you're looking at. Okay. I'm an astronomer. That's what we look like. And I think that as an astronomer, it's incumbent upon me to make sure that you have an understanding of what it is you're looking at. And if you don't want to know, that's fine. The pretty pictures are still there. But if you want to join and want to learn something, and as people say, be careful, you might learn something. I think Amanda said that a bunch of times, but if you join, you're going to come away from that evening with a feeling of hopefully awe. And it's wonderful conversation too, because, Daryl always joins us. Amanda, I'd like her to join us more. Amanda, poke. I want you to join us more, Amanda. She was with us for the first 2 years, quite extensively. And as she got busier with the KGRA thing, she couldn't do as much. So I'm kind of prodding her. Come on, girl, you can join us some more, But that said, I think that moving forward, we're just going to have a wonderful time. We're already planning yet another observatory. Shh, don't tell anybody. Shh. Okay. And it's going to be under another dark sky. And we're looking forward to taking this around the country as well. So we got a lot of plans, and it depends on a few things coming together, but it's something that we really want to do and something that I think we can do. So that's SkyTour Livestream on YouTube. And this is SkyTour Radio, where we talk about SkyTour Livestream and other topics in astronomy. So tonight on SkyTour Radio, one of the things we're going to do, I'll give you a little synopsis. We're going to talk a little bit about stars and their evolution, okay, in a way that'll be kind of fun. Then we're going to do the deep dive with Daryl. We're going to look at really cool objects, and he's going to go through a whole night sky worth of things to look at, and we'll have taken pictures of them, and we're going to check them out and show them to you. All right, and then this girl right there is going to ask us some really intriguing questions. And so that's going to be kind of fun. So we're going to save a little bit more time than normal for her because she hasn't been here for a while. You were gone like last week. You couldn't join us, or last week before, right? Right, yeah. So we'll have you back. And we got you back now. We're not letting go. So anyway, unless there's any questions for anybody, I'll go
Well, there's not
Uh-oh.
a question, but there's a little bit of a promotion I'd like to plug.
I thank you for reminding me of that. Because see, I went on and I just like autopilot. Amanda,
that's
tell
what
us
I'm
all
here
about
for,
it.
right? That's why you
Yes.
keep me around.
You're
this,
good.
This message goes out to members of KGRADB.com on our website tomorrow night, Monday, December 13th at 10 p.m. Eastern. Our very own Bill Skywatcher is going to be streaming the Geminids meteor shower.
That's cool.
I hear rumors, some people that may be on screen right now may be joining for the first hour just to tell you what the Geminids are, why they're happening, why they're so colorful, what you can expect to see. And then we'll go into regular KGRA programming with the cool addition of hopefully a lot of colorful meteors and a lot of breathtaking imagery. So big thank you to Bill in advance for doing this. Definitely come by. It's on kgradb.com. If you are not a member and want to become a member, you can use the code SKYWATCHER and receive 25% off for the rest of the year.
And that's all one word, Skywatcher.
Check it out.
And that's tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, right?
It starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. We might grab some local astronomer and kind of go into it and see what it's all about. And then I believe, oh, don't hold me to this. Bill's going to kill me if I get it wrong. I believe John B. Wells starts at 11 p.m. Eastern. So it'll be the regular content that you all tune in for on a Monday night anyway. Just a fun little addition, and we really hope to see you there. We really hope you see some meteors and have a great time.
Yeah, it's really cool the way Bill does these meteor watches, because when you see a meteor, okay, he puts up a zone chart. All right, so if you look at my picture here, okay, you have let's see, it starts from here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. When you're looking at the screen, you see 1 through 6. And so you can make a note in a comment, meteor zone 5. And if you got a time, you can say the time, or you put the time in, or just not. Because again, it's being recorded, so you'll be able to come back and see it again. So that's really cool, So I like that. And for the record, the reason that SkyTour Livestream is in existence at all is in part because of that guy. Okay, that Bill, he said you should stream, and then Keith at P&K Space Imaging, another fantastic moon stream and planet stream. He said you ought to stream, man. And next thing you know, I'm streaming, going, what am I doing? And the next thing I realized, wow, this is a whole new avenue to talk astronomy and to share astronomy, and that's just beautiful.
And you may think I'm giving this plug because I'm biased because I'm a Gemini, but no, I've heard they're actually the most colorful, the kind of most breathtaking. I don't know if you're supposed to see a larger amount than other possible peaks, but we can maybe get into that. Well, either later tonight or definitely tomorrow. But
Yes.
and I hear rumors that the site we're going to be shooting from will be clear tomorrow. So keep your fingers crossed and a good time should be had by all.
Early reports are very promising. People have been seeing a lot of bright Geminids already.
Wow.
The peak is overnight, tomorrow night of the 13th, morning of the 14th.
Okay.
I think we're planning on streaming until 5 a.m. until it starts getting bright and you just physically cannot see them anymore. But it'll be several hours. It's going all night, and normal KGRA programming will be aired.
And speaking of meteors, I'm going to throw something in for people that are interested. Let's suppose you can't see the Geminids with us tomorrow night. Okay. Here's something that I learned, and I did this as a kid, and I was really, really astonished by the results. I laid an ordinary white sheet out in the backyard. I put 4 rocks at each corner, each corner. I laid it down, and I just left it there. I left it there overnight, and I left it there for 2 or 3 days, clear days, And so over the night and daytime, because meteors don't stop falling just because it's daytime, there's just fewer of them. At night, when we reach around midnight or so, then there's more chances of meteoric dust getting to the ground. Because the stuff's getting obliterated up in the sky, and then it just settles over time. Now, the ones that are hitting your ground and falling on your sheet that you lay out, that's stuff that might have been deposited in the air months and months ago. Okay, when the meteor burned up, it just took time for that stuff to waft down. Maybe it happened over Siberia, and the prevailing easterlies brought it over, say, New England or Colorado or Arizona, and it settled out of the sky over time. So it's kind of cool. And I remember going out, I think I must have been 11, and I was probably checking on the hydrogen making system I had out in the backyard to make my hydrogen balloons I used to blow up. That's another story. But I had my sheet out there, and I took my magnet and I passed it over the sheet, with a string, thinking, okay, this probably isn't going to work. And I picked it up, and I noticed, this is probably after 3 days, I noticed that there were particles on that magnet that were iron-based. It's possible that those were pieces of a meteor that had broken up in the atmosphere, made it to the ground as a meteorite. And there I am looking at this dust that's like little fibrous dust on my magnet. So it's pretty cool. It was a technique I learned years and years ago. But I mean, I was only a little kid last year, so I guess it means, I was 11, so that's still fine.
You can also take a magnet, put it in a bucket, put it under one of the gutters, the discharge, and
Good call.
And just let it run a while. And any meteoritic dust that falls on your roof and gets washed down through the gutters will wind up in that bucket and stick to the magnet.
That's the other one, too. That's absolutely correct. That's probably a better way, because now you have the whole surface area of this giant roof working for you. It's a giant collector. I just had a sheet, and I didn't bundle up the sheet. I just passed the magnet over it to see what I got. So we get tons and tons and tons of stuff hitting the earth all the time. Sometimes, we can have, depending on the night, we can have several tons a night fall on the earth. So Earth is getting more massive, a little bit at a time, but it's negligible compared to the overall mass of the earth, But if you think about it, it's just a wonderful way to just get introduced to astronomy and the dynamic universe, that is to say, the dynamic solar system, where you see stuff that's actually that has come from outer space and sifted down onto a bed sheet or into a roof down a gutter downspout. Kind of a cool way to get involved. See, so that's a cool thing you can try. Right now Tara's thinking, I got to go find a sheet, or she's going to say, we don't get a lot of rain, so maybe I'll just do the sheet thing.
I was thinking I don't have any gutters, but
I know. But you're okay. So actually, that's pretty cool. So, so tonight, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit about stellar evolution. Now, what is stellar evolution? And Amanda knows what's coming. I'm guaranteed she knows what's coming now. But, when we classify stars, we classify them by their temperature and their color primarily. That was the primary thing we had available to us. Because oddly enough, we've never been able to touch a star, not even our own. So we only have the light that comes from them to try and understand them. So when the light reaches us, we look at the light and say, wow, okay, it's a certain color. So that means something to us. We know that hot temperatures are a very different color than the cool temperatures. And so we ended up, it was actually, there's a diagram called the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, okay, because it was Ejnar Hertzsprung and Henry Norris Russell that came up with this understanding of the fact that if you classify normal stars, that is, stars that do what stars do, that is, fuse one thing into another, let's say primarily hydrogen into helium. That's like the beginning stage of all stars. They fuse hydrogen into helium. Okay. That starting point is interesting because from that starting point, many things can come of it. But if you say, okay, based on the color of the star, and it's doing this normal hydrogen into helium thing, you put it on the diagram based on its brightness and its color. So you have brightness on down one side and you have color going the other way. Okay. And the hottest and coolest, or hottest rather, are over here and the coolest are over here. and this is the brightness. Well, you put the sun in there and you say the brightness is 1. The sun starts at 1. Okay. Anything higher than the sun is 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times the sun's brightness, and then less, 100th, 1,000th, 1,000,000th, etc. And
logarithmic scale.
That's right. And so when we look at the values on this diagram, we find that the sun and the other stars that are doing this normal fusion they go down a snaky path down this diagram. And then there's other stars that are outside that and below it and above it. And they tend to be different, okay? But that snaky line going down that middle, okay, right down the center, the top left to the lower right, okay? That's called the main sequence. The main sequence. That's the place. That's the basic place where we know that all stars are performing this basic fusion, hydrogen into helium, and that's highly simplified. It's actually taking deuterium atoms and turning it into an isotope of helium. And deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, so don't even worry about that. The thing is, that's the basic structure, right? So that is something that when we look at how this all works, that's something that requires a certain amount of temperature and pressure. But where does that come from? Well, in the very beginning, we had what we call a solar nebula. Now, what's a solar nebula? It's the entire collection of everything that made up the sun and all the planets kind of in this one place in the galaxy. And then it turned out that a clump formed because it's not all evenly distributed. Okay. And this might be a question that you had asked a while back, Tara, but it's not all evenly distributed. But when they got a clump, it tended, because there's nothing else around it, it would tend to contract because mutual gravitational contraction would occur. And the objects would just coalesce and get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if enough gas and enough dust was present, then the gas in the middle could condense down and become a star. And at the same time, while this young star is forming, then it'll have a disk around it of material. This is called an accretion disk. It's a phenomenon that occurs when you have stuff coming in from all sides. One direction wins out in the end, and you get this planar, flat disk of material moving in a circular pattern around the star. And that which also have separate little clumps forming in it. And those separate little clumps of dust and gas form things like terrestrial planets, rocky planets like Earth and Mercury, Venus, okay? All right, and then you have gas giants like Saturn and Jupiter closer in, and Uranus and Neptune further out, okay? So you have this formation occurring, and everything, including the sun, is made from the elements that existed in that solar nebula. Where did those elements come from? Those elements came from other stars. So everything on the Earth that's made, this phone is made of silicon and glass, which is silicon dioxide. It's made of all kinds of materials that were once forged in the heart of a star. And that's what's kind of cool about this whole process. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on, right? And if we look at the background, first of all, let's just take a look at like what goes on inside a star. Okay. If you look right here, you can see this diagram, right? These are called fusion thresholds. Okay, hydrogen, okay, makes helium. Okay, see hydrogen over here makes helium. Okay, and the minimum core temperature for that, as you can see over there, is 13 million Kelvin. Now, a Kelvin is a special temperature scale. It's really, really, really high Fahrenheit. Okay, and it's 273, plus 273 for Celsius. Okay, because if at minus 273 degrees Celsius, that's absolute 0 Kelvin. So you see the relationship between the scales, and you can convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, Celsius to Kelvin that way. So that said, to make helium, you need 13 million degrees, and that's not even degrees, 13 million Kelvin. Okay, Well, that 13 million Kelvin is going to come from the pressure. And we can bring this back again because I know you all want to see that again and again. That 13 million Kelvin comes from the pressure of overlying material in this solar nebula that's forming. When the star is formed, the mass of that star is going to have a core that's under a lot of pressure, and that core under the earth, there's a lot of pressure, and that pressure in there is going to get more and more intense as more material accretes onto the star and comes into the star. And once the star winks on, then whatever mass it has, that's the mass it's got to lose, right? Over time, that mass is just going to be given away, right? Little by little. That's called mass loss over time. All stars lose mass. And they don't ever wither away and die like that, though. That's not how they work. But the fact is, this material that goes into making the star radiate, okay, in that core will reach that temperature of 13 million Kelvin. And when it does, that's when those hydrogen nuclei in the center can be fused into helium nuclei. And it can't go any further than that if the star is a star kind of like the sun. It can go a little further than that, but it can't go too far beyond that. Okay. If you look at this diagram right there, you see down, right there on the second line, you see helium. Okay. The helium can go and become carbon and oxygen. All right. And that's exactly how that works. All right. But look at the temperature required. Now you're up to 100 million Kelvin. That's a huge difference from 13 million to 100 million. Okay. So how could our sun ever do that? Well, our sun really can't. Okay. We're going to do hydrogen into helium, and we're probably not going to go any further other than through other means. There's other means of way which elements get made, and we won't talk about that. But it's actually out there. It's something called the slow process, okay, or the S process. But don't worry. The thing is, when our sun makes hydrogen to helium, it might also make a few helium atoms into carbon, but not a whole lot. But why can you get a star that can have a temperature of 100 million Kelvin? Well, you could if that star is more massive than the sun to begin with. Then you end up having things happen where stars end up having many shells around their core, right? And that kind of looks like this here, okay? For the very biggest stars, we actually have a core of iron and nickel, which is the most that a star could have in its core. And then we have these outer shells. You notice it's like an onion skin, isn't it? Okay. We have a silicon shell. We have an oxygen shell, neon, carbon, helium, and hydrogen as well. You know, but look at the size of the core. The core is the radius of the Earth. All right. And the envelope, that is that everything outside the core, is actually way bigger, almost out to Jupiter in size. This is for the most massive stars after they start running out of their fuel. Okay, they start fusing other things, and that's what we're seeing here, is them fusing other things. Daryl, I don't know if you had anything to add. I just
yeah, sure. When you get those bigger, brighter, hotter stars, and you go back and look at the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, those are the stars that are at the upper left of the diagram. Yes. They're really big, they're really hot, and they're really bright. And especially then as they slide over to the right side, staying at the top, when you're getting into the supergiants, you get blue supergiants and you get red supergiants. Rigel, for example, being a blue supergiant, and Betelgeuse, of course, being a red one. And that's when they're getting ready. That's when they're really cooking up the heavier elements. They're getting ready to do something wonderful or terrible, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, if you're there, it's terrible.
And I'll hand you back to Mark now.
No worries. Thank you for putting up that diagram. I like to bring it up just a little bit longer here. Now, I got just a point here. When Amanda first started with us in Sky Tour live stream, she didn't really know anything about astronomy. And now she knows a lot more than she realizes. She looks at this diagram, and she doesn't have to be told what goes where. She knows all the details. Isn't that true, Amanda?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
The mnemonic helped. I'm telling you, I swear by this. It's
Color.
when I
Oh.
was little, it's how I remembered the order of the planets from the sun out. My very educated mother just served us nice pizzas. And yeah, I'm keeping pizzas in there. Pluto's still a planet.
That's right. It is.
Yeah, but this one, for those that are viewing the screen, you can see at the bottom OBAFGKM. And if you remember the little mnemonic, "Oh, be a fine guy, kiss me," or "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me," depending on your preference, that's the order. The O's are the biggest and the bluest and the hottest. The reds are smaller and cooler. But again, when we're talking Kelvin, it's all relative. Like
It is.
and really, because the universe gets big fast. These numbers get mind-blowing fast. Look at a lighter or a match or a campfire. If you light a lighter, there you will see a little bit of blue in the flame at the bottom. That's where it's the hottest. And as it goes away, it gets more and more red. So, not everyone has access to a telescope. Not everyone has subscribed to Sky Tour live stream on YouTube to check out Mark's telescope, but everyone can get their hands on a lighter. Ask your parent for permission.
That's a very good analogy. Thank you for that. That's a wonderful way to put
it helped me. It helped me. It makes sense. Yeah.
And in stellar astronomy, what we talk about, okay, this brings up the question of why we don't ever see any green stars. Ever wonder? Because the spectrum is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Well, where's the green stars? There should be green stars, right? Well, when you light a lighter, you don't see a green flame, do you? It only goes from blue to whitish to yellowish to orange, and then finally to a red. And that has to do with something called black body radiation, how hot things give off their energy, basically, and how they radiate away their energy. And so that's why green is just not included in there. There is no color for green. You'll never see a star that gives off, predominantly in the green. Yet, oddly enough, our eyes are better tuned to see green than any other color, which is kind of weird. And that's because that's sort of central to the spectrum, and we see broadly on either side. Okay. And people say, and they have this mistaken idea that they see better in red light because, that's why they turn red lights on in a dark room, because we can see that. No, it's actually because the film doesn't react to the red light, okay, in certain cases when you're doing black and white photography in the past. But it's also that your eyes are not as sensitive to it, so you won't ruin your night vision. So that's why you use red, because then you can still look up in the sky and see things fine. You don't have this overwhelming amount of light coming into your eyes, spoiling your vision. See? So that's interesting. But thank you, Amanda. That was very well done.
That actually reminds me of something I forgot to mention at the beginning when I was plugging the Geminids meteor shower tomorrow. Yep. Night vision. Obviously, you want to get, as dark as you can, away from the city lights, away from air pollution. Don't get discouraged if you don't see anything the minute you go out there. It takes, approximately 20 minutes for your eyes to really adjust to the dark. So if you're running in and out of the house, if you're checking your phone, you're canceling out the natural relaxation of the eyes to really appreciate what you're seeing. So give yourself at least 20 minutes, bring a blanket to lie out for the evening, and or become a member at kgradb.com.
There you go.
May I jump in on the black body a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. When you look at that Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, for instance, objects don't radiate at just one frequency, though, one wavelength. Black body objects, it's considered an ideal object for a thermal study, I guess you'd say. Our sun, for instance, right there in the middle, well, it looks white to us because that's sort of a combination of all the colors it's emitting from cooler to hotter. When you get up into the bigger, hotter, brighter stars, they tend to also emit more ultraviolet and maybe in extreme cases even X-rays and gamma rays. Our sun, of course, does put out some ultraviolet. That's how we get sunburns and suntans, but primarily visible wavelengths. But when you get up into the blue supergiants in particular, those are dreadfully hot stars, and they emit a lot of ultraviolet and X-rays and even gamma rays.
Yeah.
So more extreme cases, but all objects do emit all frequencies. But the bigger and hotter they get, the brighter and the more toward the blue end they emit. That's it.
Yeah. That's very cool. And just to give you an idea about this type of emission, let's take a look at this object right here. Okay, this is one of our Sky Through live stream photos. This is what's called the Horsehead Nebula. You see it right in the middle there. Okay, and above it is a nebula called the Flame. Kind of looks like a burning tree, doesn't it? But down to the right, isn't it beautiful? And,
oh my gosh!
Behind the Horsehead, the reason you see it at all, okay, is because this red glow. You see this red glow behind it. Well, what is that red glow? What star is causing that to happen? Well, for a long time, we didn't know how this all works. And I won't bore you with all the details, but suffice it to say that that's hydrogen gas. And the hydrogen gas has an electron, a proton and electron, each hydrogen atom. And if the electron is excited enough, given enough energy, it'll jump off the atom and then spontaneously jump back into the atom. And as it cascades down into the atom, it gives off light. That light happens to be red. Okay, that's the predominant color we get from this. So these regions are caused by very, very hot stars, as Daryl just mentioned. And in this case, it's the star to the right with the halo around it. The halos are an artifact of our imaging system. And that star, called Sigma Orionis, is actually, I think, one of your favorite stars, is it not, Daryl?
You betcha. It's absolutely beautiful in the telescope. When you can zoom in on it, it's a multiple star. You can't see all the stars because some of them are so close. They're called spectroscopic binaries.
Yes.
But there are 4 or more visible stars when you look through the telescope. There are actually 6 or more stars all clumped together, orbiting each other in Sigma Orionis.
Yeah, and that's not a stable
really
set
beautiful.
of orbits. Yeah, it's not stable. It won't be there forever. But Sigma Orionis, the main star you see there, is sort of a conglomerate of some of the other stars too. But that main star is a very, very hot blue star. And it's giving off a lot of ultraviolet energy. And that ultraviolet energy, just like Daryl said, is causing the hydrogen gas to ionize and causing this amazing, amazing glow that we see. And that's what we see throughout the universe. All right. Go to the Flame Nebula up above. The star Alnitak on the right is another hot O-type star, hot and blue. All right. Bluest is hottest, by the way. And so most people think white hot is the hottest. It's not. That's several grades cooler, believe it or not. But blue is the hottest. And so that star, possibly along with a few others, are actually causing the Flame Nebula to glow as well. I think we talked about Alnitak. Daryl, didn't we talk about Alnitak as the source star? And we looked at it, whether it was actually the source, because I didn't check the database on that one.
Oh, it is. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. But
as I've said, I've always wondered at the coloration of the Flame Nebula, because obviously it's not just red. That's what I've
gold.
I've never quite got my head around that.
And
there are other elements mixed in it, or different wavelengths being combined to produce the kind of golden color.
Yeah.
Who
but
knows?
see, you will notice, guys, that Flame Nebula up top is sort of orangey, and that very, very bright red of the nebula behind the Horsehead Nebula. Well, that Flame Nebula is also immersed in a dark nebula. See those spider lines, a tree structure, so to speak, that you can see? That stuff is actually dark nebula, dark dust. It's not gas. There's some mixed in, of course. Otherwise, it wouldn't glow. And that dark dust you see is also between us and the bright nebula. So the bright nebula is probably deeper into the dark dust. And maybe it's a combination of the dark dust over the front of what should be a red nebula, and maybe that's changing the color slightly. Kind of interesting. If you look down below to the upper left of the Horsehead, you see two blue nebulae near two bright stars. Well, those stars are immersed mostly in dust. And so the dust is causing the starlight to be scattered. We call those reflection nebulae, and they look blue because the star's blue light is being scattered. The rest is actually being allowed to come through. Remember, we get all the colors of starlight in the spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. But the blue and the indigo, blue, indigo, and violet light, that is the light that is the shortest wavelength, the highest energy. And those frequencies are really easy to cause to scatter. And thus, the dust is very good at taking in that blue light and saying, "Ooh, blue light," and then letting go and then spitting it out any direction it wants. It's the same reason we have blue sky. Is this process happening out there in interstellar space is also responsible for our blue sky. All right. Differently, I mean, the sunlight is being scattered by the molecules in our atmosphere. Okay. There, it's being scattered by the particles of dust in the nebula. But again, it's a phenomenon that we see commonly in the universe, that high frequencies are scattered. Right. And that's what we get. So we see a lot going on in this one image. And we took this, I think, the 2nd of December. So about 10 days ago, I think they took this image.
Okay, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but Eric had a question. Do we know like what the distance is? The red behind the Horsehead and the flame that we're seeing, what would like the distance in width be? Do we have any idea on how to measure that? Or
yeah, we know those answers. Go ahead, Daryl.
Roughly 1,500, 1,600 light years away, 1,600. That's how far away they are. How far wide they are, if that's part of the question, I couldn't tell you offhand, but it's very big. It's huge. If you ever see a deep exposure of the entire constellation of Orion, it is just absolutely full of dust and nebulosity. And at that kind of distance, it's going to be huge. I mean, hundreds of light years across or more.
wow.
But in terms of, say, this length of the red part of the Horsehead there that goes up from just below the star at the top called Alnitok, and then down at the bottom, there I think we're talking about 12 light years maybe in distance, approximately, because the Orion Nebula is like 22 or 24 light years across, I think. And so this, if you measure it in terms of those lengths, that you're looking at something that's actually just about that kind of length. But at 1,500 light years, keep in mind, this is a time machine, the universe is. And so we're seeing these as they were 1,500 years ago. We don't know what it looks like just this moment. Probably just about the same. Because at the scales and sizes we're looking at here of things, this is incredible, okay? If we were at 1,500 light years looking at the Horsehead Nebula, we probably wouldn't even notice that it was there, okay? Because we wouldn't see the subtle glow of the red nebulosity behind it, because we're there, we're within it, so we wouldn't really know what we're looking at, you know. So we might not see that kind of thing, and we'd only see it from one particular vantage point. As soon as we start to move around, it would take up a lot different view. It might look wider and fatter, and suddenly it's not a Horsehead anymore. It's just some little tongue of dark nebula sticking up into the sky. It's all twisted, who knows, you know, into our space.
Yeah, and when you look, again, deep exposures of the entire constellation, I wish I had a picture handy I could share. There is tons going on in Orion, in the entire constellation.
Yeah.
There is a big, huge loop over on the left-hand side called Barnard's Loop, which is evidence of an old supernova, supernova remnant. There are stellar nurseries going on in Orion, which is what M42, the Great Nebula of Orion, is. New stars are being born, old stars are dying, and the stuff they're putting out is reseeding space in the area.
That's right.
And it's just a tremendous thing to see.
It is. And it's actually, I would say, perhaps one of the most amazing locations in the sky, because there's a lot going on there. In some cases, in some ways, in fact, I'd say that it looks more incredible than the summer Milky Way at times. I mean, the summer Milky Way is beautiful, and it's the brightest Milky Way that people tend to see and understand, right? But there are ways in which the universe can look even better. Now, that deep photo we're talking about is this one.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I dug it up while you were talking. And this shows you right there. This shows you exactly what we're talking about. If you notice in the center, you can see Orion's belt of 3 stars. You can see Alnitak in the lower left, and the Horsehead is just below Alnitak, but you can barely see it. Down below, you see the Orion Nebula outline. It's in the belt. And then to the left, that large red swirl that you start to see that goes from the lower right all the way up to the belt, then crosses over the middle of Orion to the right. That's circular for a reason. That's because it's an ancient supernova remnant. That is the remnant of a star that blew up. Remember we talked about the stars and how they create their elements in the core of the star? Well, those stars will eventually run out of elements to make. So when I showed you this, iron is in the core. Iron can't be compressed or made into another element. It's just too much energy would have to go in. You'd lose energy. And you have all these burning shells, these fusing shells around the core, as you see. And those shells will eventually stop. They'll run out of fuel. And the entire star, that is to say, the core of that star, will collapse. Why would the core collapse? Because the star is radiating outward with high speed particles and radiation going out, okay? And that radiation pressure pushing outward balances the gravity trying to collapse the star from all directions. But when you stop radiating out, the star begins to shrink. And if you stop suddenly, then the star goes, boom. And when that happens, you get this amazing crash. The outer layers of the outer core collapse into the inner core. The inner core can't go anywhere, okay? So those things bounce off that inner core. It's called bounce, actually. And it starts to move outward. And as it moves outward, it's shredding the incoming stuff, which is in the process of collapsing. The end result is, over a period of just a few milliseconds, is that the star disrupts itself. The star obliterates itself. And you don't want to be anywhere near that. But I do. I want to see Betelgeuse go off. Betelgeuse may already have done so. I hope it has. And I hope we're a year away or a month away or a day away from seeing it. Wow.
We have a bit of a follow-up question from Eric. I think he's really fixated on the kind of red glow behind the Horse's Head Nebula. And if I'm reading this right, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, he's asking, are we in anything that might look like that? So if someone was seeing us from, that distance, would they get that kind of effect?
I saw something recently that we may be involved in a little nebulosity in our solar neighborhood, but it's nothing like what we see in Orion.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is the reason we see these so brightly in Orion is because we're closest to Orion, effectively. I mean, we're part of what's called the Orion Spur. It's a little, I call it a side road off of the main spiral arm that we're in. And Orion, its stars, the nebulae, the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex, the OMCC, okay, that were responsible for this, is right in our neighborhood. It's literally only 1,500 to 2,000 light years away. That's right next door. Not anywhere near close enough for a supernova to cause us any harm. But remember, all the stars we're seeing are at different distances from us. So that's something to understand as well.
There are other larger nebulae, too, that there's one called the Tarantula Nebula, which, if I remember correctly, is in one of the Magellanic Clouds. It is like the Orion Nebula, but it is so much larger that if the Tarantula was at the same distance as the Orion Nebula, it would fill half the sky from our point of view.
Yeah.
And that would be a show.
That would be a show. That would be a show. We probably get bored of that though over time, right? Thinking, oh, now we got to just look at all this red stuff again. I just want to look at stars, right? But no, if you look though, you see a lot of red here. You do definitely see a lot of this red glow.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
Is that nebula, is it really a lot closer to us? Because it's huge. I mean, it covers most of Orion. I mean, all of those stars, is it really close to them and just massive, or is it closer to us and it just looks bigger because of our perspective? Because it seems like it's encircling a lot.
Yeah, it does, but it's actually roughly the same distance as the Orion Nebula and what's going on in the belt. Okay, all of those are approximately the same distance from us. And Barnard's Loop, that loop you see on the outside there of Orion going up and around, that's actually at just around the same distance as well. So, as an example, if you remember the Veil Nebula in Cygnus, the Swan, the Veil is a very large remnant that is actually several full moons across. Well, this is a little more than that. It's probably a few more full moons across. But the Veil is approximately the same distance from us as Barnard's Loop. But over time, Barnard's Loop has been expanding into space, the nearby space around it. So as it's expanding into space, all right, so it's going expanding into space. Maybe we're seeing it a little bit later in its evolution than, say, the Veil. Eventually, the Veil is going to go and fade out, as will Barnard's Loop, because it's only glowing because of the ultraviolet radiation from stars in the area that are causing it to glow.
Yeah.
But eventually, that's going to go away, and it'll go back to having a dark universe in that section.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tara, when we look in the direction of Orion, that's called, if I remember correctly, the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex.
Yep.
That is all one great big huge chunk of dust and gas.
Yep.
And that's why it's all about the same distance, because it's kind of one big thing with a whole lot going on inside it.
Yeah. You see, Tara?
That's really cool. So the Orion Nebula is part of that. It's just a little tiny section of that.
That's
Absolutely.
correct. It's
Okay.
actually like a blister on the dark nebula. That's the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex, the OMCC.
cool.
Yeah. And from another galaxy, as big as this whole complex is, this complex would be but a tiny red spot from a distant galaxy. All right. So it's huge on a relative scale, isn't it? So that's what's interesting about this. And I know we'll be coming up on a break in a few minutes, but before we get there, I just wanted to mention, we're talking about these stars. We talk about a supernova. That core collapse that occurs in a hot star is literally something that occurs at a quarter of the speed of light. 25% of the speed of light. That core will collapse at that speed when it finally runs out of juice, material to fuse. It will then collapse really fast. And then we get these elements rained into our universe. Now, if you look at this periodic table, we all hate the periodic table, don't we? Well, maybe not this one, because if you look at this one, you see the yellow up at the top in the center. Says exploding massive stars. Everything with a yellow in it. That's what you get from supernovae right there. All the things in the yellow. Okay. What you get is in terms of other elements, you see the greens. This is that process I told you about. This is called the S process in dying low mass stars. That is, stars that have created a nebula around themselves, as we're going to see in the next hour. Okay. Stars that have caused a nebula around themselves. These have a process by which they do something called neutron capture. It's a slow process. But the only thing that's making an atom different, or a nucleus of an atom different from another, is the number of protons in its nucleus, right? If you're helium, you have 2 protons. If you're hydrogen, you have 1. If you're iron, you have 26 protons. If you're mercury, you have 80. Okay, so we're talking about all these different numbers of protons. But here's the thing. Sometimes, because we're talking about atoms and elements that always have these additional isotopes, that is to say, additional neutrons in their nuclei, sometimes the nucleus can get converted into a proton. And as soon as that happens, then on that periodic table, a carbon atom, number 6 right there, suddenly is a nitrogen atom. Okay? And then an oxygen atom can suddenly become a fluorine or neon. All right? And on it goes, okay, in that process. But if we look at the green ones only, okay, we have yttrium and we have zirconium, we have 39 and 40, strontium and yttrium. Okay, a strontium atom can become a yttrium atom with just a capture of a neutron and that conversion of that neutron to a proton, increasing its number by 1. And that happens in the periodic table to these elements, among others. And thus we can get that as well. All right. So it's interesting when we look at how this happens. There's other reasons too. When neutron stars, you'll be surprised to see that merging neutron stars cause a lot of these higher level radioactive elements, all right, including plutonium, okay, and uranium, right? So there's plenty of other elements that are built this way, and that's the thing about these atoms, which make it so cool. But I think it's kind of cool. And if you're interested in hanging out with us for a little while longer, in the next hour, we'll hear from Daryl. We're going to hear Daryl's deep dive, and then we'll hear from Tara, and we'll do a wonderful visit with our neighbor down there who knows a lot about these, has a lot of cool questions. But until then, I'll talk to you on the other side of all this. See you later.
I flew across country, got my manual, and I was ready to go. It starts with some classroom time and hearing expert advice from MUFON field investigators.
I'm Gwen Farrell. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and an experiencer therapist. For about the past 13 years, I have worked directly with experiencers, contactees, and abductees.
It's credited to Ben Franklin, who said, "Do you love life? Then do not squander time, because time is the stuff life is made from."
Then it was off to the desert to learn more. So we have arrived at the site. We're going to learn a little astronomy and, just how to look out for UFOs.
Watch for jumping cactus.
It's also known as jumping cactus, and it seems to just jump on you. Don't even look at it long. I'm telling you, it has barbs to go in and hooks. Don't want to take anyone with urgent care. So stay away from the white cactus, far, far away. Yes, there's rattlesnakes. Yes, there's tarantulas if we're lucky enough to see one. Sometimes we have to just crawl right through here. They don't hurt you. Yes, there's scorpions. They're horrible.
And the parking lot has thousands of splotches that big from where the cars run them over.
Oh, nice.
And so if you go to the lights, there's like 20, there's 50, 100, you'll count thousands.
But don't let this man scare you. It's just like getting stung by a bee or a wasp. You're not going to die.
Sure, whatever you say. But when it came time for sunset, there's nowhere I'd rather be. It was a perfect night full of stars. And some people brought serious equipment. We even managed to find some scorpions. They weren't so scary after all. Then it was time for a good night's rest so we could be up and at 'em again Sunday morning.
Good morning, everybody. Last night was a blast. I'm so excited to be here and hanging out with my awesome Arizona MUFON friends.
Also, I've got a field kit in the back that you can look at that I use, one of my field kits with a lot of nifty electronic stuff in it.
After some classroom learning, it was back to the desert for our practical test.
The practical is you guys proving that you have learned how to do what you're going to learn from John and Stan, who are teaching you forensic field work. And these guys are the best, so you guys need to consider yourselves super lucky that you're learning this from the ex-Navajo Rangers, because they are the best at what they do.
Who, what, where, when, why, and how. You want to be thorough in that investigation. When you have that sense, trust that.
And just so you know, that sixth sense, everybody has it to some degree. But it's like a muscle. If you use it, you can develop it.
Hoax is where it's obvious, where somebody has deliberately created an event and executed it. It means like they build a drone of some type, put a whole bunch of lights around the bottom of it, make it look like a flying saucer. And you got to find out where the truth lies.
I'm going to have 5 spots out here in the desert, all picked out and all baited with alien artifacts for you guys to find and bag and tag and collect correctly. And then you're going to prove that you know how to do that and fill out forms the right way.
So, how did we do?
They did tag and collect all of it. Initially assessing the scene, safety was number one. Really, the focus was teamwork.
And they processed the site correctly. They made assignments.
Everybody has been following the guidelines religiously. They were number one. They did really good.
And to wrap it all up, we got our certificates of completion.
Thank you all for being here and having the right attitude and everything. It really, really helps. Thank you, Stacy.
We had a blast and even managed to get a few plugs for the show.
What's up?
What's up? What's up?
What's up?
Join me and Katie Grabowski and Krista Perno live every Thursday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern right here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Tune in and find out what's up.
You know, during the break, I was looking at this model here that I have. This is a 3D printed model I made of the comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko. It's actually the comet the Rosetta mission went to and landed the Philae lander on. And we learned an awful lot about comets with this landing. This 3D model comes from the United States Geological Survey, and I printed it on one of our 3D printers in my shop. And it's really interesting to look at these bodies. And, you know, we talk about life on the planet and how stars make the building blocks of life. They make the atoms and the elements over time. But this material that this comet is made of was once made in the heart of a star. All of it. So it's really kind of interesting when you look at the icy comets out there in the outer solar system and put it into the perspective that this all came from out there, from another star, that was forging away elements in its core, and then, of course, went supernova or exploded. I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, that said, I just think that it's really neat. Looks like a failed sculpture of a dog, Kathy Pernsick. Oh, that's funny, Kathy. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's true. I guess it could be that way. But no, it's actually a comet, but that's okay. I thought that was funny. Thanks for that comment. So when we look at our solar system, we look at the universe, there's so many things out there that lead us down the path that tell us how stars evolve and show us the evidence of their evolution, present or past. And I think that this is a good time for us to head into a deep dive with Daryl. And Daryl will talk to us about some of the objects and I'll bring up some of the imagery from Sky Tour live stream that we've taken of these objects we're talking about. So join us for the deep dive with Daryl. Drum roll, please.
Yay!
Take it away, Daryl.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Here we go.
Woo-hoo.
Now, this is my local sky a little after sunset, about 5:30 in the evening. And I may back it up even a few minutes yet. So 5:25 p.m. right now. We're going to start over here under Ophiuchus for a good reason. Mark just talked about comets. You may have heard about Comet Leonard has been appearing in the sky. Well, Comet Leonard was in the morning sky, and it is just now moving into the evening sky. I was hoping it would show up. Comet Leonard is right about here right now. It's in the west, very low in the west, just after sunset. It has moved from the morning to the evening sky. It just did that. And I believe actually today is when it's closest to the Earth. I could be wrong, but I think that is the case. Now, we're going to start playing here. If you have been watching the sky, well, here's brilliant Venus over in the southwest. It passed through the teapot in Sagittarius recently, and it was climbing, but now Venus is dropping also. So we're going to see some things happen here, and I'm going to show you what's coming up in the sky in the next few days and maybe to the end of the year. I'm going to try to keep my time the same, but I'm going to start advancing day by day. So here is tomorrow night. Now, yesterday on the 12th, the comet was right over here about behind this tree. And in one day, it has moved this far, so it's climbing a little higher in the sky. And now on succeeding nights, there it is on the 14th. You can see it's moving to the upper left. It is moving toward Venus. On the 15th, it's a little higher still, closer to Venus. On the 16th, it's closer yet, a little closer to Venus. On the 17th, it's going to be passing directly under Venus. You should start watching maybe on the 15th. I don't know if you're going to see much on the 12th or the 13th or the 14th, but definitely by the 15th, and especially on the evening of the 17th at about 5:30 your local time. That may vary a bit behind because of where you are, east or west in your time zone. But Comet Leonard is going to be directly under the planet Venus, okay? And it should be producing a tail. We don't know yet because the comet is still approaching the sun and getting hotter, that it may be putting out a pretty good tail by then. One of the pictures I saw recently, the comet's tail was 10 degrees long, which is the width of your fist at arm's length. So that's a pretty significant tail. And the tail will be pointing. The sun is over here where it just sat behind the western horizon. And it'll be pointing to the upper left. Roughly along this line, which you've heard me talk about before, this is the plane of the ecliptic. This is the highway in the sky that all the planets run in, okay? You can see here's Venus, here's Saturn. I'm going to back out a little bit. There's Jupiter right there. And Comet Leonard is going to be swinging up under, close to the plane of the ecliptic, and its tail should be extending to the upper left. Now, this will be something to watch, and in succeeding days, though, you see it continues to move, and it's getting farther away from us by this time, so it's slowing down a little bit, and it may start getting dimmer just because it's farther away. But this is something you definitely should watch for. Now, something else is starting to happen too, though. You see, here's the planet Mercury. Mercury just came out from behind the sun, and Mercury is starting to climb a little higher every day. And I'm going to advance the day. You see, here comes Mercury. Now, you see, Venus is going away now because Venus rounded the corner in its orbit as seen from Earth a while back, and it is finally dropping every night, moving toward the sun, getting ready to pass between Earth and the sun early next year. But now Mercury has joined, and we're going to have 4 bright planets in the sky. We're going to see Venus, Mercury, Saturn in Capricornus, and Jupiter in Aquarius. And actually Pluto's up there too, but it's not worth bothering with. It's so small and far away that there will actually be 5 planets in this small area of the sky toward the end of the year. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I want to show you something. We'll get Venus a little higher, and I'm going to zoom in on Venus. Now, if you can look at Venus in the telescope, you will see something really cool. You see, Venus doesn't just look like a really bright star. With a little magnification, Venus looks like a small crescent moon now because it's moving toward us. It's sort of like a young moon, but in reverse, that it's moving farther to the lower right night by night, and it's become a crescent. It's a waning crescent. Again, sort of like it's doing the opposite of a young crescent moon. Whoops, shouldn't have done that. But anyway, that's what Venus looks like about now, in 3 days actually. And it's really cool to see in the eyepiece. I have seen a few times in my life that the last time a young moon came up after new and sat close enough to Venus just before it passed between Earth and the Sun, that's called an inferior conjunction, that the moon was in the same field of view of the telescope as Venus, and that crescent phase matched on both the moon and Venus. It was a really beautiful thing to see. Venus right now is about 45 arc seconds across, so it's not very big. When Venus gets closer to the horizon as it moves to pass between Earth and the Sun, Venus will become about 60 arc seconds or 1 arc minute across. And when you can see the moon right next to Venus, well, the moon is half a degree or 30 arc minutes across, and Venus will be 1 arc minute across. So you'll see 2 matching crescents, one 30 times as big as the other. The moon will be bigger than Venus, but their crescent phase will be the same. And it's really a beautiful thing to see. I've only seen that a few times in my life. Took a picture of it on film once, and it was really cool. Now, what else is going on here? Okay, this is the plane of the ecliptic. This is, strictly speaking, it's the path the sun follows as seen from planet Earth across the sky. But all the planets are pretty close to the plane of the ecliptic. They can vary a little bit, but the bigger thing we're seeing right now, here's Venus, and here is Saturn, and here's Jupiter. They're evenly spaced in the sky right now. If you go out and look after sunset, as soon as it starts getting dark, you will see them arrayed like a jewel across the sky. And they'll be evenly spaced. Saturn is the dimmest of the 3. Venus is the brightest. And then bright Jupiter is the one up at the farthest left. And I'm going to back up the time again. Now, another really cool thing that happened back in the last week or so, when the moon first came up on the 6th, the moon was directly under Venus. And we'll advance it one day. The moon was directly under Saturn. On the 8th, the moon was pretty much under Jupiter. And then by the 9th, the moon had moved to the upper left of Jupiter. And here we go tonight. You can see that the moon has moved on, but they do still pretty much make a line in space. And that line is defining pretty much the plane of the ecliptic. The moon's orbit around Earth is tilted about 5 degrees to Earth, so you can see it running a little above or below the plane of the ecliptic. And now we're going to start the deep dive, I guess. The first thing, we're going to go down here in Pisces Austrinus, And Mark, get ready. Here comes the helix.
Nice.
Okay. Here is the Helix Nebula right here. Looks like it's in the knee or leg of Aquarius. And Mark, take it away.
All right. I'm just going to, first things first, I'm just going to have to take away your screen for a moment here, Daryl, because I'm going to be showing the helix as we captured it in SkyTour Livestream. And when we talked about the helix earlier, what we were talking about, we actually talked about nebulae and how they actually create these different. I'm going to have to stop your screen sharing here for a minute, Daryl. I don't think
we switch them.
Do you want me to stop it?
Yeah, no. There we go. Yeah, very good.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Oh, actually, I see what's it. Okay, sorry. Good. Thank you. All right. Anyway, so when we're talking about these nebulae, remember I brought up this image before, okay? And this image here, which everybody hates, the periodic table. Well, when we look at something like this, this is a planetary nebula. That star in the middle, it looks blue, and that's because it is. It's a blue star. It's a white dwarf, very, very hot, and it's giving off a lot of ultraviolet energy. That ultraviolet energy is causing the these elements, these nuclei that are out in this cloud to ionize and glow. So the atoms ionize for a moment, they're just a nucleus, and then the electron rejoins and gives off light. Oxygen tends to give off this greenish blue light. Hydrogen gives off this reddish light. But that's not all there is, because when you do a spectrum, when you take a look at all the different elements that come out that you see in these typical planetary nebula, this is what you see. Every little single peak you see here on this diagram, every single peak at every single wavelength is a different element or a different emission line from an element. If you look through, you can see on the left, you have a very, very bright peak, and it says oxygen, all right? It says O6. And then down to the right, you have neon, you have helium, you have hydrogen beta, oxygen 3, that's doubly ionized oxygen. You have helium 2, that is to say an isotope of helium. You actually have calcium, you have carbon. Okay, you see you have a lot of these different lines. These are emission lines. And actually what's interesting, over on the right side of the diagram, you see down the little word sky, and there's a dip and not a peak. Okay, it's over just to the left of the 7,000. Okay, that's actually something called telluric lines, Telluric, telluric lines. Those are the lines created by the fact that this spectrum was taken through our atmosphere. And our atmosphere actually absorbs some of the energy of the starlight coming to us and kind of takes away from what we can see. And those telluric lines cause a little dip. So if there was a line here, it's possible that the sky could have obliterated it with its line if it was a little bump. So you see there's a lot of different elements that are in these nebulae. And that's what we're looking at here is potentially the same number or even more. This is probably one of our, I'd say, finest shots of the helix that we've ever taken. But if you look at it carefully, you'll see that it has this outer shell. And you see, it looks like it has it's sneaking away here. And it looks like it's sneaking away here. Then you have this other shell out here. You see another shell out here. The method by which the star died, this is not a supernova. This star has been fluffing off its outer layers. And that's what we're seeing here, okay? This star has actually been taking its outer layers and pushing them off, okay? It's contracting and expanding. Remember the shells I showed you where a star is, creating, it has different shells that of fusing that it's doing? Well, these smaller stars that are just a little bit bigger than the sun are actually pulsating. So helium is fusing, hydrogen fusing in these outer shells like an onion skin. And it causes the star to bloat and then contract, bloat and contract. Again, gravity winning, gravity losing, gravity winning, gravity losing. Okay. And each time it does that, these shells puff off. Like this one here was probably one of the first shells to puff out because it's the farthest away from the remnant. Okay, same as this. So maybe that was the first tenuous shell of hydrogen, the outer envelope of the star blowing off. So it's really cool how this all works. All right, Daryl, you're back.
Okay, leave that up a second, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
And when you see closer to the star, the whole sort of peel an onion thing, peel the layers of an onion, the stuff closer in, well, there's that characteristic kind of blue-green color of oxygen 3, it's called. And these are all very representative of what we see in planetary nebulas. And again, as Mark said, this is where the star is sort of gently sloughing off layers, which produces this. And by the way, when you look at that, some people see the eye of Sauron in that. You see that?
That's Sauron's eye.
Isn't
Look
that
at that.
cool?
I see it right there.
Okay. Give me Stellarium back, please.
All right.
Now, do you want to do 253 or not, Mark? That would sort of show stellar evolution on a grand scale. Okay, we'll go ahead and do it.
All right.
Ready?
You can talk about it. Show people where it is first.
We will. Well,
I bet you will.
Sorry, I have to get rid of that first.
That's all right.
It's going to be right about here. It's in the Sculptor constellation, a little under the star Difta, which is the tail of the whale. And here we are right here, Caldwell 62. No, that's not. I'm sorry. Wrong one. Here we are.
There you go.
Okay. Show me. Bear with me here.
Just zoom in on it more.
Yeah. This is NDC 253. Okay. This is a really cool galaxy far down in the southern sky. Some people call it the Silver Dollar Galaxy. You might see why. And Mark, if you want to take it away.
Sure.
Now, I thought this might be a good one to show because we're talking about stellar evolution. And when we see NDC 253, the Sculptor Galaxy, we are seeing stellar evolution on a grand scale.
We are, actually.
Do you have the picture, Mark?
I do indeed.
Oh.
So here we go. Boom, magic. Okay, this is NGC 253 up close. This is a galaxy, and when Daryl says stellar evolution on parade, basically, take a look at this disk of stars. Now we're seeing it kind of on edge, okay? So we're not seeing it like straight on, like flat on, okay? This would be an inclination of 0 in our terminology, and edge on would be 90 degrees in our terminology. Well, this is more like, it's not 0, okay? It's not 90, but maybe it's like 80 or 75, okay? Well, we're looking along the side of it, along the top of the dinner plate, basically. This is a large circular galaxy, and if you look in the middle, you notice the stars are yellow, and the outer stars here are blue. Okay, this is like a 25-second exposure that we took with the telescope, and you see that we see this beautiful difference in the galaxy, right? We see these orange, yellowish stars. We see those more toward the core, toward the center of the galaxy. That's older stars. Okay, more evolved stars, more red giants down there, more larger giant stars, more evolved stars. And in this spiral arms here, this is where the new stars are formed. Okay, and also what happens is the new stars in the spiral arms, when they form, if they're hot O-type stars, the very hottest and bluest, then they may blow up a lot sooner. And when those blow up, they're going to create dust in the outer regions of the galaxy, and thus we see these beautiful dust lanes in this galaxy like this. And we'll see these in a variety of places, in a variety of different galaxies as well. But we're watching it. It's stellar evolution on parade. It's not the only galaxy that shows us that. We have plenty of galaxies that show us that. The Andromeda Galaxy being one of them. But this is a good example. And it's called the Sculptor Galaxy.
Yeah.
All right, Daryl.
When you see those dark lanes in the galaxy, Well, those are the dark clouds, just like the Orion molecular cloud complex is made out of. And that's where star formation is going on.
And planet formation, don't forget. You know, just because we recognize planets forming here, we've also know that planets are being formed in other galaxies as well.
Okay, so let's go back to Stellarium. Okay, now I have moved on. We're going to talk about Messier 27, the Dumbbell Nebula first.
Yes.
We have moved over from, we were over here in Pisces Austrinus and Sculptor, and now we're moving towards Cygnus. And Messier 27 is in the constellation Vulpecula, the little fox. And Amanda, that's one of her favorites. And it's called the Dumbbell Nebula, which you may see when Mark shows you the picture of it. Have at it, Mark.
All right. Well, when we talk about the dumbbell, what are we talking about? We're talking about another star that has died. This star died, and when we zoom in on it, you see some interesting stuff. Again, a hot blue star in the middle. That's a white dwarf. It's a star. Basically, it's the stellar core, the highly compressed remains of the stellar core left behind after all this outer material has been sloughed off of the star. So when this stuff gets sloughed off and blows off the star, the hot core is left behind. And, you know, a very high percentage of the mass of the star is now in a cloud of hot gas around the star. All right. You'll notice that some of this is going up and down as opposed to side to side. This is called a bipolar nebula. It actually it forms because the nature, very likely in the way the star was rotating before this happened. But again, the greenish blue is oxygen, doubly ionized oxygen, and the reddish stuff is everything from neon to hydrogen beta, all these different elements, again, that were made, via this whole process. All right, this is that process we talked about before, which was the dying low mass stars. These green elements, you'll find these in these nebulae like that. Okay, so that's like basically the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth and sixth row of the periodic table, along with carbon and nitrogen. So that's a pretty cool development that we've see there. So, but this is a beautiful example of a nebula that looks gorgeous in a small telescope. In a big telescope like ours, it's just stupendous. All right,
it
Daryl.
is. It's a real eye popper. Okay, back to Stellarium. Now, I have moved on. We were here at M27 in Vulpecula. We have now moved over to Cygnus into one of the wings of the swan there, you see. There's his eye. That's Albireo, the pretty double star. Sauter is the middle of the swan's body. Deneb is the tail. And over here in one of the wings, there's the Veil Nebula. Now, we're moving up the scale now in star deaths, where the dumbbell and the helix were small stars getting old and sloughing off their outer layers. Now we're moving up to big stars and what happens when they go supernova. And I'll hand it off to you, Mark.
All right. When we take a look at these stars, this is an example of what happens when a star explodes. This is the right-hand side or the western side of the explosive cloud. The rest is over here on the left out of view. And then there's a whole nother portion of it way out here. Okay, out here, where I am right now with my hands. So it's something way out here that you'll see too. So that's something to look at that we'll see. But this is a beautiful remnant. Again, lots and lots of elements in this that populate our periodic table. Okay, and if you see here, okay, exploding massive stars. Well, now we have the second, third, and fourth and fifth rows are populated by those exploding high mass stars. Only high mass stars explode, by the way. Our sun will never do so. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. And so that said, this is a gorgeous remnant but it's also pointing out a lot of chemistry about to share with you what's going on in the universe. And by looking at the light, because as I said, all we see is the light. That light being all that we see tells us the answer. So little by little, the veil and mystery of the universe are being revealed to us. Back to you, Daryl. Daryl's on mute. He doesn't know he's on mute. Daryl, you're on mute.
Oh, you know what? He might not be on the StreamYard page. Is to click over.
Yes, I am. Sorry.
There we go. Worth the wait. Build the suspense.
Good
Very
deal.
good.
Amanda.
Well, we were over here in the veil. When you look up in the sky at the veil, it's huge. It's several times the size of the moon in the sky. And that is where a star exploded and died in a supernova. And now we're going to move over to another called the Crescent Nebula, which is about partway down toward Alberio, down below. This is the Crescent. And Mark, have at it. This is another the supernova remnant. There is a Wolf-Rayet star.
Yeah, I'll explain that. It's actually a what we call a Wolf-Rayet star. And the point that we're trying to make with these things is, if you look, this is the Crescent Nebula right here. This star right here is responsible for blowing off a lot of its outer hydrogen envelope. Stars are made mostly of hydrogen. So that's what we're seeing here. Blows off most of its hydrogen envelope, leaving a hotter core behind. It's high in ultraviolet energy. Definitely causes this to glow. Okay. And this star will eventually go supernova. So that's the distinction. A Wolf-Rayet star is a very, very powerful star that will eventually go supernova. And they can look like these planetary nebulae we talk about. So there's a confusion right now as to whether some planetaries are actually Wolf-Rayet stars. But it's likely that the Wolf-Rayet stars will go supernova, whereas a planetary nebula with a white dwarf in the center can't go supernova. All right. So more study of this star down here, that little dot right there, will tell us whether this is going to be explosive or not.
Yeah.
A white dwarf or not.
Wolf-Rayet stars are tremendously hot and bright.
Yeah, they are.
As Mark said, I mean, it's possibly a good supernova candidate in the future.
It will be.
Okay. And now we're moving on. We were over here in Cygnus, and now we have moved over to in the constellation Cepheus, the king. There's his wife, Cassiopeia, right there. You see, she's admiring herself in a mirror because she was very vain, and that angered the gods, which is why they told her to take her daughter Andromeda and sacrifice her to the sea monster. But that's a story for another time. The Bubble Nebula is right here in Cepheus, and have at it, Mark.
Well, the Bubble Nebula is interesting because we just talked about a Wolf-Rayet star. They created the Crescent Nebula. Well, here's a Wolf-Rayet star right there, that dot you see, that's creating this shell. This shell around the star is material that's blowing out from the star because of the star's strong wind. Again, created the same way. The outer envelope of the star is bursting out there. So I think that it's pretty cool to watch these phenomena unfold. Someday this star will also go supernova. And when it does, it's going to be an astonishing sight. I can't wait to see it, to be honest with you. I hope it does go within our lifetimes, but tends not to. But if you notice, if I back out, you'll see this area is actually an area within which there's a bright star cluster. I think that's called the Salt and Pepper cluster, if I don't miss my guess, maybe.
I think so, yes.
And then there's another little nebula over here. These are star-forming regions. These are areas that are illuminated or caused to glow by the Wolf-Rayet star. And then more nebulae here, and more up here, and more up here, and then dark nebula right here. See, it's just like, it's endless. There's all this dark nebula throughout the universe. And dark nebulae are the places from which stars and planets will form. So there we go. You know, I do want to get to some of Tara's questions as well, Daryl. So let's see if you've got to...
you want to wrap it now, or go ahead and go to the crab?
Yeah, let's do the crab as the last one, because that's cool, because that's another supernova.
Okay, well, we were at the bubble here, and now the crab is over in Taurus. You see the head of the bull is the Hyades constellation. The Pleiades are riding the bull's back. And there's the bright red star, Aldebaran. Well, when you go to this tip of the bull's horn, we see the Crab Nebula right there.
Yeah.
And there you go, Mark.
Well, when we look at this, this is neat because in terms of stellar evolution, this is the final resting place for many very, very high mass stars. This is the Crab Nebula. Let's zoom in. Shoop. Okay. As we zoom in, you'll see that this nebula is really very well structured. It's got all kinds of little filaments in it. You'll see the green areas here. These are areas that are actually areas of oxygen 3, that is doubly ionized oxygen, that have moved out in these tendrils from the supernova explosion. And the material in the interstellar medium is what determines whether this object spreads out evenly, spherically in all directions, or whether it gets squished in one direction, goes more or so in another direction. And that's just what we see with some of these supernovae, right? The red stuff can be anything from hydrogen to neon to a variety of other elements. The white stuff is just stuff that might be pale, a pale version of some of the other isotopes. That is to say, not a high density, so you don't see as much color. But this nebula is interesting because right in the very center, you can see that right in the center of this, there is another star. Well, that's actually called a pulsar. This pulsar, what is a pulsar? Well, pulsar is a neutron star. That is a remnant left behind by a supernova where the star has obliterated itself. And that pulsar in that particular nebula that you can see with your with this telescope is spinning 33 times per second. Now you say, well, is that a lot? Well, it's not the fastest pulsar, okay, but it's pretty fast considering that the pulsar is something like 12 miles across. Okay, basically the size of Manhattan Island, right? Imagine a sphere the size of Manhattan Island, and imagine it spinning 12 or 33 times per second. Per second? Why doesn't it fly apart? It doesn't fly apart because of the immense gravity that's holding it together, gravitational force. A teaspoonful of this material on the Earth with our gravitational coefficient would weigh billions of tons, perhaps 10 billion tons in a teaspoon. That's a lot of material collapsed into one small section. And so this will expand out. And I don't know how we can get the link. Maybe we can get the link posted somewhere, Daryl, but I'd like to see people looking at the expanding crab, because over the 100 years of observing the crab, which exploded in 1054 AD, seen by Chinese astronomers, in that time, the crab has expanded in such a way that you can actually see it expanding. So I'd love to have that link made available to people. I don't know how we can do that here.
I will find it in just a moment. One thing I want to say, if I remember correctly, the Crab Nebula is 6,500 light years away. And imagine how bright and hot and extreme the pulsar in the center of the nebula must be if it's 6,500 light years away and it's only 12 miles across. And we can still see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as extreme as they get.
Universe provides a lot of surprises to us, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's end this deep dive, and I will go find the video of the crab's expansion and post it in chat.
Fantastic, Daryl. Thank you so much, Daryl. Yay. Round of applause for our deep dive with Daryl. Daryl Mason, an astronomer's astronomer. I just appreciate your wonderful diligence with this. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And now we have this one, Tara.
Hi.
Tara writes these incredible questions for us, and it's a segment we call Tara's Cosmos. We're going to finish out the show with you, Tara, so be ready.
Okay, awesome.
We've got some time.
Awesome, great.
So let us have it.
Well, you're just talking about all those colors. They're just beautiful and stuff. So I'm curious if you could talk about the colors of the meteor shower that's going to be coming up. And why are those meteors different colors? stuff?
Well, that's a very good question. When a rock from space falls down to the Earth, it's going to be a certain color when it burns up. Now, why is that? That's because it's made of a particular element. Okay, remember these? Okay, yeah. If you look on that chart and you look at the element number 26, it's kind of in the middle of the chart. It says Fe. That's iron. A lot of meteors are made of that material. And iron, when it is burned and made to burn up in the atmosphere by the friction of the atmosphere, it's coming in at tens of thousands of miles an hour. And when it hits the atmosphere, it's like hitting a wall. And when it burns up, that color will generally be yellow. Okay. We have other colors like bright blue that can be seen at times. And that is number 12, magnesium. Okay. All right. And magnesium will glow a bright blue color when it comes into the Earth's atmosphere. All right. And then we also have the colors that are red. Okay. And that's strontium, number 38 here on the periodic table on the left side there. Okay. So we see these many different colors. Sodium can be a yellowish color. Right? And the thing about the colors of the meteors is that you just don't know what you're going to get. You know, not only that, when a meteor comes into the atmosphere, another phenomena occurs as well sometimes, especially when you see the Leonids. Okay. The Leonids, I believe, just passed us. And when we see that meteor shower, sometimes they leave behind what's called a train, a cloud. It looks like a cloud. But that cloud will also cause a glow. And that glow can be green in the sky. That is actually an induced aurora created by these meteors entering the Earth's atmosphere. That's something that is another phenomena. It's a phenomena mixed with a phenomena. So it's very cool.
May I add, when you see the various...
I got to grab something real fast behind me, but you go ahead and do that. I'll be right back.
Very good. When you see the colors in the meteors, that's like the colors you see in fireworks, okay, where they have added different elements to the fireworks to create those different colors. It's also like if you took chemistry in school, when the teacher would give you different elements that you put a little on the tip of a spatula or a spoon, and you held it in the flame of a Bunsen burner, and you got different colors like yellow for salt, the sodium. It's the exact same process is going on, except for the auroras that Mark mentioned, which is a heating of the atmosphere.
It's a high energy interaction with the high energy particles that are coming into the atmosphere, either from the sun's solar wind or from a meteorite going into the atmosphere. And this is, by the way, this is an actual meteorite. Okay, this is an iron meteorite. It's actually weighs quite a bit. It's solid iron. If this burns up in the atmosphere, it's going to be yellow, okay, because that's the color. But it really is an example of what falls from space. Now, if this fell on your head, you'd be dead. And in fact, not too far from here, a woman was struck by a meteorite. And she went on to become quite famous, actually, because she's one of the few people on the planet that was struck. And then a few years later, in the same town, another meteorite struck. So it's like, I don't want to live in Wethersfield, Connecticut. No.
Magnetic field or something there.
I don't know what it is, but it happens. Yeah. So meteors are that color for the reason of their chemical composition, Tara.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the heat generated when they're bumping along the atmosphere. Does that affect the colors of them at all?
Well, when an element burns, okay, you're going to get a certain color based on the element's chemical composition. And that temperature is a well-known temperature that they're going to burn at, okay? There's different melting points for different materials. And so when we start to see the melting and burning, that's generally not going to be, for instance, hot enough to say make it every meteor like a bright blue meteor, okay? Or always a red meteor. There's really very few red meteors, Yeah, and Kathy Prinasek, see that? Look at that. Now, I love that. See, that's why we have great people in our audience. That's right.
That's one of the things I wish I could remember. I find myself every couple of months for a big meteor shower trying to Google this every time. I cannot keep this straight, and I think this is cool. I really think this is cool. Yeah.
Yep. Now she says, okay, if you notice what she's saying yellow, iron, and then she says red, atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen. That's also how auroras work in a sense, because you will see atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen creating a reddish aurora. Rarer, I was in a red nitrogen aurora that went horizon to horizon, and it was at 3 a.m. right here in this town where I'm sitting right now. It went horizon to horizon. There was a Star Trek episode called "For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky," and in that, they were trapped inside of an asteroid, and it had a fake reddish sky. I felt like it was in that show because it was this beautiful salmon color in every direction, and that's because we were immersed in a nitrogen aurora. Okay, thank you, Kathy. That's wonderful.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
All right, Tara.
I hope to see you around tomorrow night so you can remind me again.
All right, Tara, let's hear more.
Okay, just kind of a quick follow-up to, I think, a question from chat earlier about maybe the glow that our solar system has, or can we see it if we're in it? And I've heard you say, or Daryl say, that if you were in one of those nebulas, we wouldn't be seeing it like we're seeing it from a distance. But
correct.
Now, hasn't Voyager left the solar system? Has it sent back any photographs that would show anything about what our solar system looks like?
Well, okay, you got to understand, and you do, that the farther Voyager gets, the smaller the planets will look. Even Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, might not be discernible to the Voyager probe, all right, because of the resolution of its camera back when it was launched. Okay, it may not even see anything. The Voyager could see the sun, but I don't think it could see much else. I'm not aware of any time exposures, and that's what it would have to be, a time exposure. That is a exposure where the shutter is open and you allow light to keep falling on the camera sensor to build up the image. I'm not aware of any of those photos that were taken. Voyager has a lot of electronics to listen to things, okay? And so it heard when we reached what's called the heliopause, that boundary where our sun's outward force is met by the interstellar forces of stars and other areas out there. And when it passed that, the sound was markedly different. And I say sound, it's not like it was hearing sound. It gets a signal that gets translated to sound so our ears can deal with it. Otherwise, it's just a scribble on a graph. And what does that mean? So, but what it means more if you hear the changes to later. Okay, so the sun has a protective cocoon around it of its own solar radiation that it sends out, and that protects us from other stuff that might be coming into the solar system of a similar magnitude, similar amplitude, similar scale. So we're within the sun the entire time. Everything we've ever done in human history, other than these two Voyagers, has been done from within our solar system, right? But if you look at certain times in our solar system, you can see on the horizon, you can see this slanting light that goes up at an angle. And that slanting light is something I saw at the SkyTour live stream site. And when I saw it the first time in my life, was there. When I saw it, I thought I was looking at some kind of light pollution, and I was really mad. Like, oh man, what is that? What kind? Who's got lights on? Because it looked like a cone going like at an angle up into the sky. And then it hit me.
Zodiacal light.
I am looking at the zodiacal light, and I was waiting, Daryl, to hope you fill in. You did. Good call. Good cue.
Cool.
So I was going to say something if you didn't.
No, I figured, but that's good. But what the zodiacal light is here we are looking out into the solar system. The sun's behind us, and the particles, the tiny particles of dust in our solar system, that which made up the planets, that which made up the sun of originally gas and dust. Gas doesn't show up, but the dust does, and sometimes the gas bonds with some of the dust, okay, in various ways. And so that stuff actually shows up as a faint glow. It's the debris left over from the formation of our solar system, and it's the debris left over from billions of years of asteroids colliding with each other and bumping into each other and fracturing and making tiny dust particles.
Can I jump in there?
Jump away.
Okay. I've mentioned this before, but March of 1997, I was up on a high mountain pass here in Colorado, and I was taking pictures of Comet Hale-Bopp. And as you said, the sunset started getting dark, and I was just amazed. I saw the most amazing display of zodiacal light that night over on the western horizon. It was like a tilted pyramid pointing up to the upper left, and it was zodiacal light that was dust in the plane of the solar system. It follows that highway in the sky that I talked about, the ecliptic plane, and it was the color of sunlight. So it was this golden sun color, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And there was the comet just to the right of it. It was just tremendous view.
That's beautiful.
You can also see the zodiacal light at local midnight. For both cases, you need to be in a dark location away from city lights. But at local midnight, you may see a dim glow, pretty much overhead, or again along the ecliptic, where it crosses the meridian. It's called the Gegenschein, and that is dust in the solar plane reflecting the light of the sun right back at you. It's harder to see than the zodiacal light after sunset. You can see the zodiacal light after sunset in the spring and before morning, before sunrise in the fall is the best times to look for it.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely gorgeous to see.
Yeah, and it makes you think that actually, you know what it is? It is light pollution, but it's caused by the solar system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the solar system light pollution. Kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very cool. Can you help just kind of refresh everybody's memory on how you measure, Daryl? You mentioned earlier about you're using your fist at arm's length. And so when they're seeing meteors out there, how they can point them out to other people, how would you measure things in the sky or find a location when they're
you need to learn the alt-azimuth system, altitude or alt. The first part is from 0 to 90 degrees. 0 is on the horizon and 90 degrees is at the zenith, straight overhead. Azimuth is along the horizon, starting at north is 0, east is 90, south is 180, west is 270. Okay, so you if you hold your arm out, if you hold your hand out at arm's length, your hand spans about 10 degrees. Okay, so that's a quick and easy gauge.
And that's with your palm down you're talking about?
Just hold the flat of your hand out.
Like this?
Or just the flat of your hand.
Okay.
Out at arm's length, it's about 10 degrees across. And it gets finer, but I don't remember the finer gradations at the moment. There's like 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers, 4. But 10 degrees at arm's length, that's how you can get a quick, fast gauge. So say you saw a bright meteor up halfway up in the sky in the northeast. Well, it was at 45 degrees elevation, and it was at 45 degrees azimuth. So it was halfway up and halfway from north to east.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Very, very cool.
And speaking of the zodiacal light we talked about earlier, while you were talking, Daryl, I hunted down this image. Okay. This is the image we took at the observatory. You can see the date, was April 29th, 2021, down the lower left. And what I thought was light pollution on the left side is actually the zodiacal light going up at an angle. This is a 180-degree all-sky cam that we have there at the observatory. And it's very sensitive, so you can see the lights of Phoenix on the right, 68 miles away. So that's pretty far, and we're still seeing the lights through this camera. But you can see this gorgeous little slope on the left side going up into the sky, and that's the zodiacal light. And the fact that I saw it was actually a wondrous thing, not a bad thing. But it was light pollution, as I said, natural light pollution. Go ahead, Tara.
I think that's a great way to end the show today.
I was
You
going to
think so?
say, when you
I
said
think so.
societal light, I thought you were going to segue to the light going down on tonight's show.
Well, that's a good call, but I still can we go another hour?
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, and what's
If
happening
you're
tomorrow night?
But you got to be a member at kgradb.com. If you're not a
Okay.
member and want to become a member, go to use promo code SKYWatcher for 25% off for the rest of the year, the rest of December.
It's cheap
And,
enough. It's not even expensive, guys. It's so worth it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you'll catch all your favorite KGRA shows on Monday night as always. But for that 1 hour from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna kind of introduce you to the Geminids and watch that for the rest of the night while the shows play in the background. Thank you so much, Bill, for
Fantastic.
doing this for us. Wonderful producer, the Skywatcher himself.
That's right, man. He's fantastic. As I said,
All right,
one of the guys
everybody.
that got me into doing the live streams. All right, well, as Daryl said, we'll have a good night, guys, and we'll talk to you again on the next Sky Tour Radio. We'll see you later.
Bye. Take